What is up, people? You are listening into New Generation Hero Talk. I am your host, EJ Stu. We have a great show lined up for you guys today. We'll be talking about Daredevil Born Again, making its triumphant debut on Disney Plus. We also got some interesting details about what we can expect from Spider-Man 4, a casting potentially on the way for Marvel's X-Men movie, and the future of Robert Pattinson's Batman is officially confirmed by the man himself, James Gunn. So we got a lot to get to on this show. Joining me and my co-host, starting with Shamari Stewart. Sham, it's been a while since we got to record. We've been busy last few weeks, so we haven't been able to get behind the mics. But one thing that did happen since last time we stepped to the mics was the debut of Captain America: Brave New World, a movie that seems to be very polarizing when it comes to people's thoughts on it, particularly critics. It's one of the lower rated movies according to Rotten Tomatoes by Marvel. Right now, I believe it's still certified rotten. I believe sitting around 50%. I want to get your thoughts on what you thought about Captain America: Brave New World.
Overall, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was a good movie. Was it like amazing? Was it Civil War? Was it Winter Soldier? No, but I enjoyed it. I thought the cast, but by and large, was good. I thought Harrison Ford was very good. Um, I thought Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson did his thing. He is Sam Wilson. He is consistent in how he's played the character since his introduction in Winter Soldier, and then through to his show, and then also into this movie. So I loved the. Then I thought the new Falcon was good as well.
Yeah.
And I thought I liked how they infused vibranium into like his suit. I thought that was really cool. I love how
Shout out to the Wakandans for hooking up our boy
shout
Sam
out
Wilson.
shout out to Wakanda, always Wakanda forever. But yeah, I thought it was good. I thought Red Hulk um, looked good for the most part. I was a little worried by some of the shots we saw in the trailer, but for the most part, I thought he looked good. Um, I think the only kind of weak point was just um, was probably the leader. I guess you could say is him, his look in general, him kind of masterminding things behind the scenes. It was fine, I guess, to have just a foil, but this was kind of, I feel like in some, and this may have been mostly through rumors, mind you, but I feel like this was kind of billed almost as like a conspiracy movie. It's like Winter Soldier, it's like Civil War, and so on. And this was not. It was just a leader, basically, just a leader mind controlling people. Like that was a conspiracy. And it's like, all right. I mean, that's fine. Um, but but yeah, overall, I thought it was good. I love this, and I also love the setting, the action set we got at the Celestial location.
Yeah.
I thought that everything that happened there, incredible. That was an incredible scene. That's in the upper echelon of like MCU scenes for me. I thought it was very, very cool. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. I liked the movie. I was not disappointed. I left satisfied. So those are my thoughts.
Shamari, a big fan of Captain America: Brave New World. I want to ask Kendall Stewart, who's also with us as always. Kendall, what were your thoughts on the film?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I enjoyed it. I agree. It's not like some Mount Rushmore Marvel movie. I'd say it's probably a Mount Rushmore Captain America movie, which isn't saying much.
There's four, so
No,
it does fit the bill.
But yeah, no, I mean it's a good movie. I like the characters a lot. I mean, like Shamari said, all the great acting performances are there. Anthony Mackie's excellent as always.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned Danny Ramirez playing Joaquin Torres, the first Miami Hurricanes fan in the history of the MCU. So shout out.
The only college football team mentioned in the MCU is the Miami Hurricanes. Just saying.
the cast was great. I mean, again, Joaquin Torres, Harrison Ford playing, Thunderbolt Ross, which is an interesting decision to go in that route, and I think it worked. He played a character that was believable as Thunderbolt Ross, but was also different than the William Hurt version, so I think that worked. Overall, there really weren't any. I like the Sabra character that we got. That was a controversial character that was included, obviously, but I thought that ended up working a lot. Giancarlo Esposito was weird, man. Like, he was great, but like, he's playing Sidewinder. That inherently it helps the movie, but I just think it's a bad decision, man. I think they burnt a great actor on a nothing role, which is a little unfortunate. Overall, like, those are the strong points of the movies: like the action, the cast, the scene you mentioned, the fight scene with Red Hulk, which I thought was really great. I mean, I thought even the battleship scene out by Tiamat Island, the Indian Ocean, I thought that was a great scene as well. So a lot of great action sequences in this movie. I think the weak point of this movie is just the writing is subpar. Not necessarily like the dialogue, but just like the story. The screenplay was a little subpar at times. The overall beginning, middle, end didn't really come together as well as I would have hoped. I told Shamari, I think I told Shamari at one point, the character from The Boys season 5 or season 4, Sister Sage, kind of does the leader bit better than the leader did in this movie. Yes. I kind of agree with Shamari, in the sense that Zemo even does the whole conspiracy thing better than the leader did it. And so that all that comes down to writing like that. And that's a character that you're not going to get by with just great action sequences. You're not going to get by with even just great acting. Like, you got to have things make sense. And when you kind of wait things out and you don't flesh it out as deeply as it could have been fleshed out, that's where it gets. That's where you don't get a full story with that character. I also feel like, in general, when you're going to do something, a very political movie like that, like a political thriller, like the politics have to make sense, and they got to dive into it. I know that gets boring for people sometimes. You watch the Star Wars prequels, and you're like, man, like, we're talking about blockades and the taxation of trade routes, or whatever. But like, in this movie, stuff like the stuff with the adamantium being divvied up with, like, it's Japan and it's France and it's India, and it's like, what's the common denominator between all these countries? Like, why are these for? Like, China and Russia have no interest. Like, they've got no stake in the game here. Like, that's the whole. They didn't explain any of that. They didn't, like, President Ross just absolutely loses his mind, and by the end of it, you're like, so who's president? Like, there's no VP. Like, does that make any sense? I mean, Bucky's now a congressman. Like, how did that happen? Did we just forget about, like, did we forget about Winter Soldier and Civil War?
I mean, at the end of the day, though, I mean, if you watch our politics, Kendall, I mean, the idea that they would just elect
an ex-criminal,
a Russian operative, or is not necessarily that surprising, unfortunately.
And Bucky didn't even dodge any drafts. He actually fought. He's an actor.
Yeah, he was actually. He is a war.
He's a war hero, man. The guy's a war hero. He fought in World War II. He died. And
he's a war hero because he was captured.
He only betrayed our country once.
Oh man. He only betrayed our country once.
Man.
It was actually mind control. It wasn't even his fault.
No, yeah, but
I would love to know the opposition campaign against Bucky Barnes and what that entailed. Like, just replaying, like, Howard Stark's death, like, over and over again on national TV, being like, this
the fact
is
that he still won,
like,
man.
And he won. I mean, yeah, we'll talk about Daredevil, but yeah, I mean, I think they're just taking their cues from what they're seeing in in our current landscape.
Those are my only drawbacks, but overall, like, it's a solid movie. It'll play well. It's a movie. It's one of the more. I don't really like rewatching movies, but that's a movie I'll rewatch because I think it's a fun movie to enjoy.
Yeah, it's a movie actually I do want to rewatch again. Hopefully I can get it before it goes off of the theatrical run. But yeah, I agree. I watched this movie and I'm like, I just feel like I just no longer can really reliably rely on critic scores from Rotten Tomatoes anymore. I feel like, because when I look at this movie and compare some of the lower scored Marvel movies, like it just does not add up to me. I think that the bar for Marvel movies and also superhero movies right now is much higher than it was at a certain point. So this movie is getting panned, I think, for reasons that other movies before it that were way worse didn't get panned. Like, there's no excuse for this movie to be below Thor: The Dark World. There's no excuse for this movie to be below some of these really, subpar Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. But this is where we're at. And I think that we're now grading on a post-Endgame curve, and this Endgame curve is just killing anything that's not this massive, big movie that combines a bunch of things together or tells this truly epic story. I thought Sam Wilson played by Anthony Mackie. I thought that he was awesome. I thought he fit the role as a lead character playing Captain America. There was no point in time where I thought, man, I wish Steve Rogers was here. Like, I just didn't. Like, he was really good. And I agree. I thought Danny Ramirez looks like a future star playing that new Hawkeye role. He was phenomenal. Action sequences were really good. And I thought Harrison Ford really gave it his all in this one. That was not a cakewalk kind of role. I feel like there was a lot of nuance to him having to play this president who's also hiding stuff, who's also trying to present a strong front, who's also stubborn and doesn't realize he's being manipulated for a lot of the movie. Like, it's a good job by him. He did a good job replacing Hurt in that role. I agree. I think the leader stuff was probably the weakest stuff. I think that when they look back on it, I mean, they wanted to make this a Ross story, and they thought making this a pseudo Incredible Hulk sequel was the best way to do that. I'm not quite sure if they needed to do that. Like, I'm not sure if that was necessary to get everything they needed, particularly when, Kendall mentioned, like, if you're going to do the whole, like, mastermind storyline, like, there's a high bar to make that character really good. And the best way I can describe it is think about what happened with the CW verse. You have two juxtapositions. You have the DeVoe Tinkerer character. That's the low end of the spectrum. And you had the introduction of Lex Luthor and Supergirl.
Yes.
That's the high end spectrum. Like, they're both two characters of the same coin in terms of, like, here is someone who is mentally advanced and is just 3 steps ahead of everybody that's dealing with them. And how do you portray that in a way that is interesting, but also menacing, but also captivating? And it's a dicey thing. You're walking a tightrope in terms of what works. But I think when you lean on the superpowered, which is what you do with the Tinkerer and what you do with the leader, that allows you to, I think, cut corners. And I think that's why it doesn't resonate as well. Like, Lex Luthor is actually just a brilliant person. So I think it requires you to show more of your work and to show more of his brilliance and how he's using it for evil. And I think that was some of the issue with the leader. I didn't hate the leader. I thought he was okay, but I just wish there were more through lines to, like, his influence on the government, and he put Ross in this position to be president. Like, all right, like, I kind of wanted to see, like, how he did that. Like, we never really got that. It's just like he's been taking advice from this guy, and because he has this mental capacity that's greater than everybody else, and it's allowed him to advance in the United States government, and we see that over the course of his career, because we remembered Ross in the Incredible Hulk, and then we see him, he's a Secretary of State, like, then now he's the president. Like, it is kind of crazy considering he was, like, a disgraced general the first time we came across from him. I would have liked to have, like, maybe walk down how that happened. We didn't really get that, so that was a little unfortunate. But I really thought that I agree. All three were on the same page on the island sequence. That was that was epic action. I know I heard they took some inspiration from Top Gun Maverick for that scene. It felt that way. That was Top Gun Maverick is one of the best movies of this generation, and it's because of those action sequences. And I definitely felt that inspiration in this movie. Those sequences are awesome. I think a lot of the hand-to-hand combat stuff with Wilson early in the movie was really good. To tone, like, this was action-wise, this was great, and I think there are a lot of good performances. I agree with Kendall. I think the storyline had some spots that made it a little tricky, but what I did appreciate about it was simple. It was like that's one thing that I did not understand with people, and that's why I feel like I'm starting to get annoyed with critics, because all I kept hearing was that this movie was like convoluted and hard to follow. And I'm like, this movie was actually very simple. In fact, in some ways, it was too simple. Like, there were so many things that were happening. I'm like, you kind of need to explain more about like why this happened. Like, I'm following it because like I know everything that's happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But some of these things are just like they say, oh yeah,
if you didn't watch the Incredible Hulk, you're like, who is what?
Right? Yeah. So this is happening because of this. All right, now let's continue. Like, this was not a convoluted movie. Like, people are saying that they either did not pay attention or they did bare minimum work to learn about what was happening. It's very simple. In some ways, I think that was actually what annoyed me. I kind of wish we would have got more. But it was a solid movie. Again, this idea that it was like one of these terrible MCU movies, I was expecting something way worse, especially considering some of the rumors we had about all the bad test shooting and all the reshoots they had to do. I did feel like the CGI, as much as I love that island sequence, the actual CGI and some of those background green screens did not look the greatest. It wasn't so much the island, I thought, as much as it was the scenes with the Red Hulk. I mean, they're supposed to be fighting like by the cherry blossoms in the National Mall. Like that, it looks nothing. It looks like something from a video game. It doesn't look real. That part, I think, I felt the reshoots the most. But overall, I thought that it was a pretty solid film. And I enjoyed it.
EJ, we got to settle the score. Going into this movie, we asked, were we going to get any reference to anything Wolverine related at all in this movie concerning adamantium?
I don't think we did.
You don't think we did? Some were saying that the fact that the Japanese were involved so heavily with the adamantium stuff was a precursor to a potential Wolverine-centric adamantium story. I think that's a reach, but I don't think it's a coincidence, but I think that's a reach.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be a reach, but it may be a reach, and it may not be a coincidence, but I don't, like, Wolverine is not Japanese, spoiler alert for those people. But yes, Japan is an important place to him, and he spends several years, if not decades, there. So the Japan Wolverine connection is obvious. There is no Wolverine adamantium Japan connection. Like, Wolverine adamantium birth happens in Canada, where he is from.
Right now, and I kept
waiting for. Yeah, maybe but okay. Then now we're talking about a very, very Wolverine adjacent thing. Like, now we're talking about a villain who's getting adamantium. I guess it's just not the same to me. Like, to me, like, if I hear like, oh, the U.S. what I was waiting to see was the U.S. lost out on the adamantium, and then like we added Canada to this new treaty, and I'm like, there you go. That is where we get it. And I was waiting for it to happen the entire movie. That would have been crazy. It did it. It did it. And it felt like a waste of time. I was like, why wouldn't they make that call? but I'll be honest, guys. Like, on this, I feel like all this stuff, I just feel like it's going to get wiped away. I don't think none of this is going to matter. I think it makes me wonder kind of what was the storyboarding aspect of this multiverse. Like, what was the planning on this? I don't think it really makes sense. Because I think we're going to talk about the X-Men in a little bit. We know we're getting new casting. We know we're getting new people. Like, so to me, once Secret Wars happens, everything gets redone. I think we're all more and more clear. Right. It's becoming very clear that's going to happen. So I'm watching this movie. I'm just like, I don't really know if any of this is going to even matter. Because by the time we get to the X-Men movie, like, it's going to be mutants everywhere, and an adamantium is going to be a thing. And Ross fighting over adamantium in this movie, I don't think it's even going to really matter. Now, within the movie, it was gripping. It was very dramatic, and I liked it. So, like, that doesn't make me dislike the movie. But, like, in the larger scale, for as a Marvel, I kept watching this. I'm like, I don't know why none of this is going to matter. And it feels like what happened now in the Eternals just feels even more random.
Remember the random subplot in Wakanda Forever about the vibranium wars and all? We're World War III over vibranium, and it's like, whatever happened with that? We already moved on to adamantium, and now we're gonna move on from adamantium because that was like that's an afterthought now.
See, yeah, I see, and it's funny. I don't even remember that, but like, but
It-
yeah, no, it's like that was another one of the things I didn't. It's one of those things where it's like I got excited. I'm like, okay, we're talking adamantium, Wolverine. All right, we're getting closer to Wolverine, closer to, and then it's like, okay, there's like this political group fight over it, and then there's no mention of vibranium at all, which I'm like, okay, so because I thought adamantium was refined vibranium. That's why
they only mentioned it to say, yeah, this is better than vibranium.
That is stronger.
Like, okay, this stuff is better than vibranium.
Stronger, and it's not being hoarded by an isolationist nature.
Yeah, which I'm like, okay, so what? Now Wakanda has some kind of secondhand, some kind of knockoff adamantium type thing.
It's
So now
adamantium.
adamantium is a new thing. Like, who cares about vibranium? So I'm like,
adamantium is vibranium 2.0.
You're right. That's why I'm like, I don't really love that. I kind of liked it better when it was like, okay, the Wakandans have vibranium, but if you want like just like the refined indestructible metal, like the best version of that, you get adamantium from that. I prefer that canon, but they wanted to change that. I guess I don't know why, but all right. And like you guys were saying, then we get this political thing where it's like, okay, Japan kind of wants to claim over it. And I'm like, similar to you guys, I'm like, okay, so is this like Silver Samurai? Is that because that's the last thing I've seen with Japan and adamantium. So I'm like, I guess it has to be Silver Samurai.
And to me, like, people wondering again, why is Japan involved? And I asked the question earlier in the show, and again, maybe it's a coincidence. Tiamat fell in the Indian Ocean. We knew that a long time ago. So obviously, the countries involved in that area are going to be in India, Japan.
Yep.
But at the same time, do I think that Marvel, when they were making Eternals, we're elongating this all the way to, so we're going to have Tiamat fall in the Indian Ocean so that Japan can come into play in
I don't believe it.
Brave New World so that we can introduce Silver Samurai and Wolverine and all that stuff in 2028. Like, no way.
Not at all.
They were thinking that when they made these. They're just coming up with this stuff as they go along.
Yeah, exactly. They're just throwing stuff on the wall. And I think with some mindset also, I think they're doing it with a mindset that they know stuff's gonna get reset after Secret Wars. So it's like, yeah, it's that part of it is frustrating.
These creators are asking Feige, "Hey, can I do this?" So he's like, "Go ahead, have fun."
Yeah, whatever. We're trying to get to the finish line here. So
is it gonna be good? Are people gonna like it?
Yeah. If you want to get to the finish line and build my universe with the X-Men in it, that's all we care about. So yeah, do whatever you want. Don't introduce any mutants. Don't introduce this, that.
Fantastic Four, Doom.
Yep.
I'm telling you, man. Iger was just like, you're gonna put a mutant in something, and that's why they threw Beast in that post-credit scene. I swear that's what happened. They're like, "Where's the X-Men?" Oh, we're getting there. Put an X-Men in your next movie, and then Beast is in the post-credits. I guarantee you that's what happened.
Yeah, we got to talk a little bit about Beast. Maybe not that version of Beast, but another version of Beast happening in the MCU in a little bit. But we got a lot to get to on this show. Again, this is a New Generation Hero Talk. We got to talk about a lot of things. But first, we're back, baby. The Man Without Fear has made his long-awaited debut to TV screens. Daredevil, Born Again, debut episode premiered this past week on Disney Plus, a show which is a continuation of the popular Netflix series Daredevil, brings Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock and Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin Wilson Fisk character back together in another gripping New York City action drama. The first two episodes, to me, are equal parts exciting, devastating, and brutal, as this show keeps in line with its predecessor's dark tone. So far, the revival is being largely well received. The Rotten Tomatoes score that currently sits at 83% for critics and 84% for fans. So I'll toss this first question to Kendall. What did you think of the first two episodes of Daredevil, as I rock my Daredevil shirt for those watching on YouTube?
I thought it was really good. Again, you're not going to really hear many complaints from me. Like you said, there's been a...
By the way, this is a spoiler conversation, too, for those who,
Oh yeah,
I didn't even do the spoiler thing for Captain America. That's been out for a month, but
yeah.
this is a spoiler conversation.
There's not really a spoil in Captain America that anybody can care about.
Fair. But it's a spoiler conversation with Daredevil. So if you've not seen Daredevil Born Again, come back to the podcast when you have, or fast forward the podcast to a different part in the show. We're talking something different, but it's a spoiler conversation.
This I do think people will care about spoilers.
Yes, for sure
in this conversation. But yeah, no. I mean, I thought that this was a good introduction, a good revival, I should say, to the series. I mean, you know, there's going to be a very interesting story, and we're getting bits and pieces of it as we go along with the show of what really went down with the creative process from the jump of this project to like what we ended up getting in these first couple episodes. But the end result that we've gotten so far, to me, I mean, it works. Like, is it different than the Netflix show? Absolutely. I find that a bit refreshing. Some people may be bothered by it. Some people, like, I was having a conversation with our mom, and I was like, it feels a bit like it's more MCU-ified a little bit. Like, and I could see somebody that doesn't like the MCU but liked the Daredevil Netflix show being like, this is a little MCU-ified for me. Like, it's a little different. It's just something different about it. But you know, like even just like the music and stuff, like, he didn't do all that stuff in the other show. But like but to me, I mean, that works for me. I mean, I watch all these Marvel shows, so to me, I'm like, yeah, you do all if you make it like that, but you just have Daredevil like that.
And to be clear, Kendall, explain to the audience, what do you feel MCU-ified means to you when you say that?
Right. I mean,
in comparison to what, in regards to what you saw in these first two episodes of Daredevil,
the way the show is cut, like I've been rewatching season 1 of Daredevil with our younger brother Henry because he hasn't seen it. And I think we're about 7 or so episodes in, but it's just cut differently. It's more the lighting is more well lit. There's not as many scenes at night. I mean, the Daredevil show is like 80% at night. It feels like, you know, or even if it's not at night, they're in their dingy, you know, law office in season 1, obviously.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, now they're in some, you know, very corporate, you know, building, you know, in the law office, and
they make it clear that Matt has come up in the world.
He's come up in the world, right?
Fist tells him, yeah.
You know, there aren't as many scenes at night. There still are a few, obviously, but there aren't as many. He hasn't really been Daredevil as much yet in this series, and yeah, overall, like, I think the first scene definitely is like, yeah, this is straight out of the Netflix show. But after that, it definitely feels a little bit different. Now I saw someone, I think it was Kevin Smith, said on his podcast that he had heard that one of the only things they added was that opening sequence, that the original, well, not necessarily that one of the only things, but he heard that initially that opening sequence wasn't in it, but that the story was going to be the same, that it was going to start with, you know, Foggy's dead, but it happened off screen, and that they added that whole however long 10-minute sequence with Bullseye during the reshoot, rephase, rewriting sequence of this show. And, you know, a lot of what we had heard was, Daredevil's not in it much, and it's more of a law show and all that. And so he speculated, he's like, I don't know, is it a situation where that was one of the only things they added, and that they've kind of kept a lot of the granular story from where it was even at the beginning of the process. But yeah, I mean, it's worked for me so far. You know, again, we'll have to see where it goes with, again, when are we going to start getting Daredevil? You know, I like the White Tiger story that they gave us. There seems to be a pretty good conspiracy there. And I mean, the Mayor Fisk stuff is working for me.
Yeah.
It
is for me too.
Like, those are the things that, if you don't like the Mayor Fisk thing, if you wanted more Daredevil, like, then I can see you saying, this didn't really work for me. But those things both work for me. And I liked all the characters they've shown us so far. So I'm a fan.
Shamar, what do you think? How'd you feel about these first two episodes?
I enjoyed them. I thought it was a pretty strong start. I definitely thought that first scene was great. Extremely well done. it felt like you're picking up right where we left off. Especially action wise, I thought that was really cool. It's funny, me and Kendall were watching it at the same time, and I told Kendall, I was like, man, this Foggy's already much less irritating than the Foggy from the previous. He's not complaining.
I feel like we're back in 2017 with Shamari ragging on Foggy again.
Yeah, I'm like, you can't get a Daredevil after show without me talking bad about Foggy and talking about how he's complaining so much. He's like, nah, why can't you stop being there? It's like, I'm so tired of this guy. Like, Daredevil, it's Daredevil show. Like, but it's like just when I was starting to get, oh, okay, good, this is a different Foggy. Bam, he gets dead. I'm like, oh wow. But yeah, no, this was I like these first two episodes. I'm looking forward to seeing more Daredevil. Because these two definitely feel like kind of setting the stage. That's what I'm because we didn't get that much Daredevil in these two episodes. That's what I'm hoping. I feel like these two kind of setting the stage. We're getting this Mayor Fist storyline. We have this kind of time skip also from the Foggy scene. So this is Matt and this in his new relationship and this Fisk and dealing with his stuff with Vanessa and just kind of seeing where things go from here. We haven't even encountered this Muse character that we know is coming. So yeah, there's a lot that we know is still has yet to occur. But in terms of setting the scene, I thought this was good. D'Onofrio is like it feels like it just fits this character like a glove. It's just fantastic portrayal of Kingpin. Charlie Cox is fantastic as Matt Murdock / Daredevil. And I like the White Tiger stuff so far too. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So I'm curious to see kind of how that stuff progresses as well. So they have me invested. So I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. So I'm curious to see what these go from.
Yeah, I'll say this. I feel like these episodes were pretty awesome. I enjoyed this. Like, I feel like watching this show, I already feel like this is well in line to be probably the best show Disney Plus has ever done with the Marvel stuff. I say that humbly. I have not seen all of Agatha all along yet, but this felt, I thought, awesome. What are you going to say,
I was just going to be like, yeah, I mean, that's a contender. You got to watch it. It's a conversation.
Listen, I'm not going to hear this Agatha all along. I like
just like Kendra Perkins said, LeBron is in the conversation with best player in the league right now at 40. I think Agatha's in the conversation.
But no, I mean, I thought that this was a two very good episodes. I mean, the first opening scene is nuts. Like, I mean, it's something that I've rewatched twice already. I'll probably watch it again before we get to the next episode this week. Decision to kill Foggy. Yeah, decision. Here's what I'll say. I'll say one thing. I got this off my chest. You people who get to see these episodes in advance, you go to the premieres, you get the advanced copies, you give your reactions. Cut it out. Cut the bullcrap. The way you guys spoil stuff in your reactions is so a disservice to people who then want to go watch these shows that I almost feel like they should actually strip some of you people's access to seeing this stuff. Because I feel like there was a way to talk about that first episode without every reaction I'm seeing being like, it's heartbreaking, it's devastating. I can't believe they made such a big move in the early episodes of the movie. Like, if you guys have been an idiot to not bring the reaction and knowing that Foggy was going to be gone very early. Like,
Bullseye did it.
Yeah, and that Bullseye did it. It was like, I'm like, come on, bro. Like, there was no reason for those reactions to be so. I guess they technically weren't spoilers. They just didn't tell you, oh, he gets shot in the chest by a sniper in Bullseye who then kills a bunch of people. I guess they didn't just tell you line for line what happened, but they might as well have. Like, I'm reading this stuff and I'm like, man, my guy Foggy, like, how much time am I giving him? I'm giving him 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I mean, it was less than that. It was 15, less than 15. But I knew he was gone. I was like, there was a way to talk about the show was awesome. It was very intense. There's a lot of violence, and that's all you had to say. You didn't have to say it's devastating. I was crying. It was heartbreaking. I'm like, well, we know.
Like, man, Daredevil really snaps, and someone gets thrown off a building.
Yeah, like, right. Yeah, I saw someone was like, oh, like Daredevil crosses the line. I'm like, come on, bro. Come on. Enough. And I'm sick of these people. Like, there was, like, I don't know. Like, I almost feel like Marvel should have made an embargo that like continued until the actual episode premiered. I don't know what they could have done, but like these people going into business for themselves. You guys are clowns, bro. Like I'm tired of y'all.
And I don't know what there's a conversation, there's a relationship that the studios have with media where like there may be a union or a guild or of some sort, but like there's got to be language that's updated also with what a social reaction is and like what a review is, because I feel like as a fan, like I appreciate that, like someone has a social embargo lifts and someone gives like a tweet that basically is like a review. Like I appreciate it when they don't spoil it, but it gets to a point now where I'm like, dog, like this thing comes out in 2 weeks. Like they just wanted you to say like, I just saw the premiere, I can give a reaction. If you just like, wow, that show was so incredible, like you guys got to check it out, or man, it just didn't really work for me, blah blah blah. But I don't need like, again, a full on review. Like the first scene, so and so does X Y Z. They put spoiler, so and so spoilers. It's just like, like why are we doing that? Like I can read, I can tell what you're trying to say. It's just they got to have a tighter leash. I know it's like the less people see it, the more they're gonna just put people that they know are gonna get favorable reviews and all that.
Right.
But like at a certain point, like then the reviews only matter. The reviews only matter till it comes out. Like you said.
Yeah. I mean that's where as a fan, like you gotta we gotta be better about who we giving our attention to. Because maybe if these folks just don't, I don't know. I hate to sound super. I probably sound crazy right now, but like the anger I had, like the episode was so good and the scene is so good that like those people couldn't have ruined it for me. But like if I came into this show like with no idea what was going to happen and then had that happen, like I just feel like my reaction would have been a lot better. And it shouldn't be because I want to see social reactions on the show and I follow people who talk about the show that I don't get that, because they have to tell you that the first scene is very heartbreaking. I'm like, there's no reason to say that. None. And so many people doing reactions felt like they need to do that. And shame on them. Shame.
Me, like going into the third Sonic movie, I remember telling Henry, our brother Henry and Shamari, that, people that were reacting to it were like, they were talking about the post-credit scene and being like, oh, the theater went nuts at who showed up in the post-credit scene. So we had to then, like, it was like we had to decipher in our heads, like, I mean, what Sonic character that we haven't seen yet? And, like, you do the math, it was really only one or two or three people. Right. And, like, it ended up being one of those people. So it was like, it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out.
Yeah. Just say great show, great first scene, and move on. That's all you have to say. You don't gotta get into the details people are doing. Sorry.
Opening scene is a banger.
Did we talk about? Because I feel like there was a rumor at some point that Foggy was dying. I feel like we must have talked about it at some. Like, was that a rumor before, or am I just making that up?
We at the very least it was speculated that one of them will probably die, him or Karen. I don't know if it was a full on.
I think especially considering the circumstances of them being added to the show, I think there was always going to be questions about how long they would last in the show, or if they I think that there was, which is why again, like those comments were so ridiculous, because we kind
of already knew that he was probably going to die.
We kind of know what time it is. We kind of know the expectations of the show.
Why are you going to tell me when it happens? I didn't. Like I said, I wouldn't have thought it was going to happen in the first 10 minutes.
When they initially create the show, these characters were not in the show. And then later on, they were added in the show, and it's like, well, I mean, there's a good chance they're not going to be in the entire
like if they wrote a whole story that had nothing to do with them, it's kind of hard to believe that they're like going to be able to just shoehorn these two random people and who are main characters and make it work. Like again, we're not
every episode
idiots.
of this 2-season show, like it's
Right.
What do you think, EJ, of the decision to kill off Foggy? Because I've seen some people say that like, oh well, now this is kind of messes the entire dynamic of the show because now like I mean, Murdoch's just like on an island, and Foggy's off the board, and like do you think that was a callous decision from a writing perspective?
It's a bold decision, which is the word. That's what I kept seeing is that they make a bold decision. I'm like, again, why are you saying these things on social reactions? It was a bold decision. I'm willing to see this story play out. Like I am one of those people. Like I will criticize like story decisions and say, "Oh, this is story bad, this is good, whatever." But I also am one of those people that I actually want to like see a story play out before I just go crazy about it. Like that's how I felt about Black Panther. That's how I felt about so many wrestling storylines I've grown up with. Like this idea that like I just hate a story without even seeing what like the creator is actually trying to do. I'm not that kind of person. If I'm invested in the story, I want to see what happens. And then if it's bad, I'll say, yeah, that didn't work. That was dumb. I would have done X, Y, and Z. So I'm like, I'm not aggressively mad at it at all. Like it was as a person who loved Foggy Nelson in the show and just loved Foggy's character. Like I'm sad. Like I didn't want to see him get got by Bullseye, but I get it. I get like what it means to Matt and what it tells us about Matt that like he can cross that line to what it would take for him to cross that line, and in his response to crossing that line and what it meant to him. Like I think all those things are informative about the character. I think they advance the character, so I'm okay with it. I do want to see, I guess, more about what it means for him now that that this has happened. As Shmari points out, like Foggy in many ways seemed to be like a detriment to like his work as Daredevil. Once he finally goes back to being Daredevil, like what does the Foggy death mean to him as a Daredevil character? We've seen what it means to Matt Murdock. It means that he can't be Daredevil anymore, and he kind of pours into his work, and in some ways, actually maybe becomes like a much better lawyer, like at least a more successful lawyer. It seems like, but what does it mean to Daredevil to not have this person around? Does it actually help him to not have so many people that he's like trying to protect constantly? Like in many ways, it's similar to Spider-Man, right? Like in many ways, like his loved ones are like his like worst enemies because like they're like distractions. Yeah. They're things that if people get to them, like it's the one thing that he has to always take into account. I think it was very heroic to see, like, again, talking about who Matt is as a person, like watching him have fight Bullseye just to the death, basically, while he is in tune with listening to the heartbeat of Foggy, and not like at any point going back to, oh, how's he doing, whatever, fully invested in this fight of not only stopping Bullseye just on the sheer fact that he killed his friend or tried to kill his friend, but also like Bullseye was an active threat. Who was taking out other people. Like there was no like hesitation, no checking, no nothing. Like to me, that told me about who Daredevil is as a hero. So all these things are important. Like again, like it's what you take from a story. Like I think that those things told me a lot about who Matt is. And it also told me who he is that when he decides to throw him off the building once he learns that his friend is indeed dead. So I'm fine with it. I want to see where it goes. Part of me didn't love the year jump. I kind of wanted to see him like work through like maybe that death a little bit more. But like they're doing the season in 9 episodes, so I think conceivably if you're going to do this story and make it make sense with Fisk, it probably makes sense to advance the story. I think my bigger questions were more about Fisk in terms of like where he was post getting shot, how he recovered, and then like what the process was of him like actually getting like the support and signatures to run for mayor. I feel like that part was maybe a little bit even like maybe more of an issue I had of him being sued, because I mean he's persona non grata. Again, I will repeat though, we've seen in New York City we will elect anybody, and in the country we will elect anybody. So I'm not necessarily upset that he's like mayor or like think that it's ridiculous that he's mayor. But like considering like if he had a very public like falling from grace, and like if I remember correctly, forgive me if I'm wrong. I know Shamar, you know the show the back of your hand. Like wasn't Vanessa charged with like murder, like in the last episode of Daredevil? Like, wasn't that the whole point, or that she was going to be if Fisk didn't take the charge? Like, he also like escaped jail. Like, how did that happen? Like, I feel like there were things that, for the sake of the show being a Disney Plus show, they just weren't going to do. But I felt like there were a lot of issues with like maybe Fisk's reinsertion that actually I thought maybe were more problematic than Matt's.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't seen the third. I haven't watched the third season in a minute. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
because Fisk is taken away in handcuffs, and
right.
he takes the charge for the death of that FBI detective.
Right.
That was actually Vanessa's charge, but he was like
Yes.
the whole deal was that like if you don't take this and leave my friends alone, like I'm putting these charges on Vanessa, and that's when he's like, all right, I'll take it. So like what, like he went to prison, like how did he get out? Like what? Like I mean,
Right.
I don't know. That those are questions I would like to have known, to the point where New York City knows that he's charged these terrible crimes, and we know that in the show. I guess maybe just walking us down, like him actually turning around his character. Maybe, I don't know. That maybe a little bit, but I to be clear though, I did enjoy the Mayor Fisk stuff. I love the idea when the guy was like, he crushed the guy's skull with a door. That sounds kind of cool. Like that's real. Like that. And that's what's so crazy about the show is some of the things that people are saying and some of the responses to Fisk is like, that is how people feel today. Like they like spectacle. They like leaders who seem to like push the envelope and quote unquote get things done, which is how they presented Fisk as being a guy who would get things done. It's very smart in that regard.
It is, yes. And I thought they did a good job of kind of weaving in the MCU Fisk stuff, like him, particularly him and Echo. I liked how they infused that into the show in a very significant way, where it was like, yeah, Echo shot him in the face, because I was wondering about that too, because they're like, oh, Fisk is back. And I'm like, she shot him in the head. I'm like, are they gonna act like that didn't happen? And they did not. They were like, yep, I was in the hospital. I was in recovery for a long time. And Vanessa was running his business until he got back. So
and we saw him in Echo, but they didn't just move on from that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And I really like Sham how like they made it an impact on his relationship with Vanessa, because like you kind of get the impression that Fisk was kind of just like running around doing stuff, and like he really wasn't. He wasn't a good like crime boss or a good husband. It sounds like,
right?
Like, because we kind of saw like the tracksuits are kind of like these jokes in like Hawkeye, like these are the guys you're running with, and then like we see like this thing with Echo blows up, and then he's going to Oklahoma to find Echo, like, and then he's shot in the face, and then we realize like he like was away for all this time, recovering, and we saw him chilling in Oklahoma, like we know where he was. Like, and you realize, like, oh wait, like he's supposed to be a crime boss and like a family man, so to speak. And like, if he's doing all this stuff, he can't possibly be doing a good job at that. So who's doing all that work is Vanessa. And then Vanessa, we see, has made the business better. But because of that, it has led to a fracture in their relationship, which I agree. I think using those MCU elements to actually further his story, that part of it, I think they did do a good job of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I thought that was very fun. I'm looking forward to seeing how, like, what Fisk does long term. I feel like there's something going on with that kid that went up to the therapist. Huh?
Oh, I think. Oh, you're talking about the kid.
Yeah, the kid that went up to the therapist and was like, "I need your help." I don't know who that is. I feel like he's.
Well, that's not the kid.
He's a young. He's a young
that kid.
Man.
No, okay. I thought you were talking about somebody else. I thought you were talking about Fisk's. I thought you were talking about the guy behind him.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. No.
We know what's up with that.
Yeah,
but I was like, that guy's not a kid. He's like, that guy's got to be at least 35.
Yeah, no, that guy. Yeah, he's older than all of us. I think he's an old guy. But yeah, no. But I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on with that.
I feel like that kid's Muse. I could be wrong, but
I think so too.
As well.
Yeah, I think so too.
The Scooby Doo. Somebody's got to be. It's got to be somebody we've seen.
Yeah, because we watch enough FBI, like we know
enough FBI.
Yeah.
Unless he's a red herring, it's possible he's a red herring, but
yeah.
I think that's what they want us to think.
For me, betting odds are him or the other guy, the other guy that was there, the guy that's working for Fisk.
Interesting. That could work too, because he's not.
That'd be a good smoking gun, kind of like red herring switch if he was actually him.
Yeah, those are the two people that I'm thinking. Those are high on my list, but I feel like it's got to be one of them. And then
I think the other kid, that I thought you were initially talking about.
Media kid.
I thought that he was. I think he's his son.
Wait, so who are you talking about?
Son.
You think he's?
I think the kid that works on Fisk's campaign
is actually his illegitimate son, or maybe I can see that.
That's what I think, because it was like they're all, we just kind of found this kid. He really wants to work here. He did all his work for us. It was like that doesn't make any sense. I mean, he could just be a guy that's like, I just want to be trained by you or something like that. But I think we're going to find out that's his son, because he even said like, I have no children.
Yeah, he looks kind of like the Fisk that we saw in those flashbacks when he was a kid.
Right.
That guy, like that guy's obviously an adult, but he looks kind of like him.
Right.
So yeah, that actually I can see. The Fisk story is cooking. We're gonna get to. I think.
Right. People may think like, oh, this is kind of boring and politics, blah blah blah, but it's gonna. I mean, we saw even in that scene with the police commissioner, like, the vintage Fisk. He can rear back the arm and throw 99 on the dot every once in a while.
And what's so funny is that you almost see now that in some ways that scene is great, because I think in some ways it illustrates that he in some ways is more dangerous in this role than he is as a crime boss, because that's him. That's not him. I mean, we know who Fisk is, so he's showing a picture of a kid and whatever. Like, we know what that means to him, but he's presenting it as like, this is this person's illegitimate child, and like they don't want to get that out, so therefore now he has to work for me because I have this dirt on him, and he's keeping his family in King of Prussia that nobody knows about. And now the flip side, the old Fisk would have been like, this is the family I'm going to kill. I'm going to kill this kid if you don't do what I say. Which it speaks to but a lot of the times what you're talking about is someone who is not the mayor of the city, who doesn't have actual, he obviously was very powerful, but it's a different power when you're actually the one calling the shots about how things go, and then you can infect people in this way. It may not be like, I'm gonna kill this person, I'm gonna kill your family, but him using that devious thing about him, being able to like blackmail people and look up people's weaknesses in their lives and use it to his advantage, it's still very much effective even in this role as mayor, and we see him leverage that in that scene. I love that scene. That's one of my favorite scenes of these first two episodes, because I'm like, oh, this guy, he's very dangerous in this role, because he's going to be very effective, because he's willing to do anything to keep in power, but he doesn't have to do the criminal thing. Like, those skills he has is still very useful as a politician. In fact, they may be even more useful. So I thought that was a key scene. Also, him hating Philly cheesesteaks is also funny to me, just in general. Like, I just like he's such like for a guy who, again, we know what his upbringing was. He's actually very similar in some ways to Oz in the Penguin, but we know his upbringing is humble, but he still presents himself as like someone who's like a regal aristocrat, and he's like, this sandwich sucks, and it's like, well, like, this guy's 500 pounds. I know he has lost weight, but he's 500 pounds, and like he's now belief cheesesteaks are beneath him. That is funny, but that was a great scene, one of the better scenes. As the scene with BB over too, because that was the one thing. If there was anything that was upsetting me, it was her, because when the way she was like talking up Fisk and stuff, I'm just like, does she not know what this guy did to her uncle? But then you realize, like, oh, this was the long game she was playing to get this access, and like she knew what she was doing in terms of like getting out the quote unquote good press for Fisk, that would then get her time with him and get her closer, and it shows that she is a chip off the old block. Because I was initially being like, man, don't tell me this is like now it's supposed to be like like how Gen Zers are moving more conservative, whatever. Like this is supposed to be that too. This is supposed to be that storyline where young reporters are like, this guy's actually good, even though he killed your uncle. Like I did like that part of it. Kendall, is there any storylines you're most curious to follow as the season progresses after watching the first 2 episodes?
One of the things that we didn't touch on is that I thought was interesting, and we'll see. I mean, in general, like, I'm curious how many different like major characters obviously we'll get. I mean, we know in the trailers we're gonna Kamala Khan's dad. In out of context, it seemed really weird, but now that you've seen the first 2 episodes, you're like, oh, that could be kind of cool, depending on how it's done. We know, obviously, again, we got Hector Ayala already, and I think that worked. And what I thought was interesting about that was, like, they also acknowledged that he uses his amulet as a source of his powers. And so it really does sort of liven up, like, this world with, like, there's a lot of superpower people running around. Like, it's not just Matt and Luke Cage, like Jessica Jones. Like, you have a random guy like White Tiger's got his own power set, and we know obviously in the larger MCU a lot more. So,
and we know that they're pretty popular. Like what we realize is that like Cherry is just like, man, like I'm a dinosaur. Like this is Matt, Daredevil and White Tiger. Like this is the new thing, and all the people who are complaining about that Daredevil hasn't been around. Like that fact that crime is bad because he hasn't been around, and they like, again, they like the vigilantes. So that's actually gonna be interesting too, because it like Fisk is running on the anti-vigilante platform. So how does that work? Like I'm again, there's some good things cooking in terms of how this is all gonna set itself up.
I am one of the things I am most interested to see is that they teased was we've seen now, I think multiple cops have these Punisher tattoos.
That is.
And so how is that going to tie into Frank Castle? I don't imagine he's going to like that too much.
Nope.
And we'll see how that ties in. So that should be an interesting subplot as well.
Yep, we know Punisher's coming up. I saw John Bernthal talk to the Hollywood Reporter this week, talking about how this, that the Punisher show is very much in line with the Netflix show, and that there's not going to be, a softened Punisher, so people can look forward to that. He just said that literally, I think, yesterday, a couple of days ago. So, no, I mean, I enjoy these 2 episodes. Daredevil Born Again comes out every Wednesday, right? Today, Wednesday on Disney Plus.
Tuesday, right?
I think it's Tuesday. Yeah.
Oh, Tuesday. Okay, Tuesday. My bad. Tuesday nights. I gotta say, man, 9 p.m. Eastern, man. We gotta do better than that. Come on now, like. As I know, I sound like the old head who's like, "Yo, I gotta stay up late," but like, I'm a person who does wakes up and their job starts at 5 a.m. Like they have to be at work.
They're dropping multiple episodes.
Right? Yeah, it's like, come on, man. Like I gotta watch. Like I love this show, but like starting at 9 p.m. Eastern is rough. I don't know why.
Look, it could be worse, man. It could be 3 a.m.
To be fair, that's what it was originally. Yeah. I was X-Men 97. I was waking up at 3 a.m. Waking up an hour earlier than I normally. I wake up 4 a.m. every day. I was waking up at 3 a.m. to watch those episodes, especially towards the end of the season. So yes, it could be worse. I understand that, but now that they've made the smart move and saying, "Oh, we actually have value in like debuting our episodes in prime time," because people actually want to see them. Like watch them live, do it at an earlier time. Do it at 8 p.m. Like that's fine, especially if you're doing multiple episodes. Like I don't know, it was just completely absurd to me that they did that the way they did.
Because it's prime time. Like, ultimately, at the end of the day now, again, they may view 9 o'clock as that slot, but, like, it's no different than, an HBO show premiering, like Penguin premiering every Sunday at 8 or 9 o'clock. Like, even though it's not on linear television, people watch it and consume it basically the same way. So I don't know why you wouldn't play to that.
Yeah. Now, that luckily, that would be that first 2-episode premiere is the only 2-episode premiere we have. 2 episodes up until we get to the mid-season finale. Episodes 5 and 6. That'll be on March 25th.
Okay.
Yeah, March 25th, yeah.
But no, this week we have one episode 4, 1 episode. Then we have the 2-episode mid-season finale. Then 7, 8, 9 those are all each one episode.
Okay.
So
And that'll get you almost all the way to not all the way, but almost all the way
and
up to Thunderbolts.
and to be clear, this is a 9 season. I don't think this is a 9 season though, right? 9 episode season, right? Isn't it longer? These are the first, or is that the whole season? I don't remember.
I think they did shorten it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
So we don't have to worry so much about. So we won't have to worry about too many multiple episode drops. But the 9 p.m. Eastern was not great. But I love what I saw. Sad to see where the storyline goes with Daredevil Born Again. I want to shift gears though now and talk about Spider-Man 4. So no details have been officially announced on Sony Spider-Man 4, but there are rumors the movie could be a post-Doomsday story, according to Daniel Rickman, aka Daniel RPK. The movie serves as, quote, a direct sequel to Avengers Doomsday to bridge the gap between Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. So even more details coming from My Time to Shine Hello, suggesting the film will be set in Battle World, which is the makeshift one world multiverse that is created in Doctor Doom's image when the Secret Wars storyline takes place. And that tons, quote unquote, tons of spider people will be in it. And they're suggesting in My Time to Shine Hello tweet that we could even have a version of Spider Island in this movie. So I tossed it to Shans first. Do you like the idea of Spider-Man 4 being a bridge movie between the Avengers films?
I suppose. It's hard. It's hard to say. It's going to be very. I don't know. I guess I. So personally, I prefer the Spider-Man movies that are more grounded and less like, the world's pulling apart. We gotta bring in these 80,000 Spider-Men from this whatever
Yeah.
universe and they do all this. I kind of prefer the ones non-animated, the ones that are live action, being much more grounded, and have one villain, maybe two, and or if there is multiple, it's at most the Sinister Six. So that's kind of the Spider-Man stories that I'm more used to seeing, that I would like to see.
So Shamari is smart. So Shamari is 1, 2, or 6.
At most, if you want to do your Sinister Six, you can do the Sinister Six, but like,
Yeah, not 4, not 5, but 6 is okay.
y'all. But yeah, no, it's but yeah, no, I think having it be like a bridge movie, I think it could be a great movie. It probably will be a fun movie. I don't. It's one of those things where I don't expect it to be a bad movie. I'm expecting it to be a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
But will it? I don't know. Feel like Spider-Man? I mean, I suppose. I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, it could be. I don't know. It's hard for me to picture having all those Spider-Man in this movie, and how. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to even picture that. It could be very good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it'll be fun. That I have no doubt. It sounds like a very fun concept. But is it the Spider-Man movie that I would want to see? No. Like, just if I'm being completely honest. So those are my thoughts on it. I mean, if they feel like they need a bridge movie, they want to make Spider-Man the bridge movie. I'm sure it'll work out. Is it the best case scenario for the fans and for Spider-Man fans and people like me? I don't think so. To be honest,
Yeah.
So I would rather have a bigger Spider-Man movie after all the Secret War stuff is concluded, and then just do like Spider-Man centric stuff and Spider-Verse centric stuff. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it.
I mean, here's what I'll say, Kendall. I think that this could be brilliant. I think that this is actually excites me a lot, because I think this will correct the error that Marvel made in the gap between Endgame and Secret, excuse me, and Infinity War, where we had movies come out that there was nothing to do really with what was going on. Like we had Captain Marvel, which was a prequel, and then we had Ant-Man, which only referenced it in the post-credit scene, which is a great post-credit scene, but that was the reality of that. I think that Marvel would tell you that those were mistakes. I think if you asked Kevin Feige, you gave him truth serum. I think people were like so amped up after Infinity War. They're like, wow, like, all right, Marvel's got other stuff coming out. I can't really see how it connects. And then you watch it, and there's just really not much there. You have to wait literally until you see the next Avengers movie. This is how it should be done. I'm surprised that Sony would be so okay with this, considering I would assume that Sony would want a movie that they can kind of stand a little more on their own. Like, I think that's why they really enjoyed No Way Home, outside the buckets of money they got for it. But also, I think that like it felt like very much like a love letter to like the universes that Sony has created and Sony's characters. I assume this won't be that because we've already did that. We did Sandman and we did bringing back Electro. Like we did that. Doc Ock. I assume this is going to be a lot different, where maybe you're actually introducing Spider people maybe we haven't seen before, or Spider-Man we haven't seen yet. And while we'll have probably Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. At least that's my expectation. Not sure that certain that's the case, but I think that this is actually something that is going to be needed and is actually important for Marvel going into these movies. I think that one of the issues I think Marvel seems to have is that in some ways their movies aren't connected enough. It just seems like in terms of the fans, I'm not even saying for me, it seems like for the fans and for the critics, like everybody wants everything to link up to the bigger story, the larger story. And then when we come out of these movies, it's like, man, that movie was too self-contained. It just seems like that's the vibe people have. So in my opinion, like Spider-Man is the biggest Marvel character. And I think we're going to see what I think we know for a fact pretty much that we're going to see a complete and utter like canon shift after Doomsday to create the world that we're going to be in Secret Wars. What better way to tell the story of what Doom's impact is after Doomsday than having a movie set in a world that he has created, having Spider-Man figure that out, and Spider-Man dealing with those consequences. Like, will the movie age that well? That may be the only thing that, in terms of like looking back, like maybe 10 years from now, it may be a little weird to watch this random movie that's set in a time that like is neither MCU, phase 1 and 2 and 3, or not also like, 1, 2, 3, 4, not, multiverse saga or Infinity Saga, but also not Mutant Saga. Like, this is going to be an in-between movie. It's going to be its own thing. So that may be a little weird, but it's bold. And it's something that I think Marvel is bold vision. So I want to see it happen. Now, I agree with Sham. I totally think that like there's no reason why we can't have more contained Spider-Man stories. But I would also then contend with Sham. We have this amazing new My Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show, which is awesome. We have the Spider-Man video games. We have so many Spider-Man movies that tell mostly contained stories until we got to No Way Home. I would argue that I don't know if it's the worst thing in the world to have like a larger than life Spider-Man story. I would argue it's probably a great thing because last time they did it, it was so extremely well received. So I'm okay with this. I think they'll go back to getting to the more self-contained stuff after this film, but I'm cool with it. What do you think, Kendall?
So I'm gonna agree with you on one level. With that being that, I agree that it makes sense for Marvel and their portfolio in terms of doing this different than how they handled the Endgame Infinity War transition. But I disagree on two different levels. Where one, I think this is a disaster. I think it's a disastrous
disaster.
Idea. But two, yeah, I think it's a disastrous idea. And two, I agree. I disagree that I think Sony loves it. I think Sony's just like, this is their dream. I think this is how we got here. I think Sony, the reason I think they love it is because I think that they're going to include and infuse the characters like Venom. The characters like maybe a Kraven or a Morbius. And they're going to make those movies relevant. And it gives them a chance to say, like, if we're on Spider Island, anything's possible. And I think it's going to be a Secret Wars of Spider-Man characters. and Sony characters. And so in that regard, one, I think that that's just a bad idea, and I could be wrong about that. But even if I am wrong about that, I think this is just a bad idea in its core, because it's such a bizarre out there thing. Like, for all the people that, post No Way, people that maybe liked or maybe even didn't like No Way Home and were like, man, like I just want like a real Spider-Man movie, not all this shenanigans. And people are like, yeah, I mean, now Spider-Man is Spider-Man. Like that, No Way Home and the whole MCU first 3 Spider-Man movies were an origin story to how Peter Parker becomes actually Spider-Man. And when he's swinging off at the end of No Way Home and he's in his apartment, like that is now he has finally become the Spider-Man we know and love. And then the first movie we see him in is him, on some island fighting some mutant spider with Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales. Like, what is it? That's got nothing to do with Spider-Man. Like, I mean, sure, there's versions of that out there, but like, why can't we just see him fight, Lizard, or see him fight?
Well, we've seen that, Kendall.
I guess we've seen it, man. Why can't we?
We've seen that. Almost any villain you can name, we've seen it already. It's true. I mean,
trust me, man. Look, we can't be that disrespectful.
The only one we haven't seen are
to the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery, which we know is second in all of comic books as the deepest and best Rogues Gallery out there.
I agree.
I know we've gotten a million Spider-Man movies, and there's still like 5 or 6 we haven't seen yet. I mean, again, we haven't seen Black Cat. We haven't seen Kingpin. Those are 2 characters a lot of people wanted. That would be far more grounded, obviously. I mean, we got Shocker. Do I even remember a Shocker? I mean, I'm not saying I want a Shocker.
Shocker was in Homecoming.
Was in Homecoming? Yeah, I guess. They botched that. But it's a whole nother conversation. But, like... And then, of course, as we saw in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, like, how about we just, like, do our actual Green Goblin and actual
we also didn't get, like,
Norman Osborn.
Rhino, or the Rhino we got was that Mecha, whatever.
Yeah, a real Rhino. Like, you can do... There's plenty of characters you can improve on, but, like, Mr. Negative, like, that's not necessarily a character I'm dying to see, but that's a character they can do. Like, I just... Man, I'm not
dying to see it, but... Do it, Marvel. I mean, like, I don't know who we're talking about. Like,
so we rather see Madam Web. We're about to get Madam Web back, man.
I mean, we don't know that. We don't know if we're getting Madam Web back. We're not 100% sure about that. I mean, like, now I do think you make a good point about, does this mean the Sony characters get their shine?
I put that at like 35%.
It's very possible. I'll be real. It's not a scenario I really thought about. And that is a scenario that can be concerning. But I'll flip this and say that I think it could be a good thing. Everyone thought that Electro was one of the worst superhero villains in the history of superhero movies in Avengers, in Amazing Spider-Man 2. It was awful. There was nothing about that character that worked at all. Nothing to do with Jamie Foxx. He's one of the best talents of his generation. But it just did not.
Have you seen that movie yet, EJ?
No, I always told you guys. I only saw the last act of that movie.
Oh, right.
And not even half. I only saw the last act, literally the last act, and I was like, "This is terrible." This is so bad. I mean, his powers made no sense. He sounded crazy. I'm like, this isn't good. So like that was terrible. But guess what? Like he got his redo in No Way Home, and he was really good. Like that really worked. Like. I enjoyed his aspect of the movie. Like, if it means that, like, I know we keep banging on Feige, but if it means that Feige and Daniel Destin Cretton gets their chance to say, okay, like, you guys screwed up Morbius and Kraven and Venom. Like, now let me see what I can do with this. I think that they may do really well with it. Like I don't look at that and say they're dead on arrival. They have no chance to make that work. Like I think they can because I know it's only one character, but I saw them do it with that character, and then I saw what they did with Andrew Garfield. And Andrew Garfield was awesome. Like he was a really great part of that movie. In some ways, I think he was maybe the best part of that movie. He was my favorite part, and he's my least favorite Spider-Man by far. So I get what you're saying, but I would also flip that and say like, while I'm not gonna do cartwheels, that I gotta see like. Jared Leto as Morbius again, I will say, well, maybe this Morbius in this story will be really good because, like, Marvel just knows how to do Spider-Man better than Sony does. They have a lot of other issues that they can't get right. And other issues I think you should be concerned about with Marvel's creative. I can't, given the first 3 movies I've seen with Marvel, say that Spider-Man is one of them. It's not. So I would give them a shot and say that they could make this happen.
They could make it work, all right? It doesn't mean it's definitely going to be terrible. Did you guys see the last Venom movie?
I did not.
Come on. Of course not. Is it even on any service yet? I will watch it at some point, but I've not seen it. No.
It
I
should be.
Seen the Carnage joint.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shamari. I mean, we can talk about it, but Shamari's disdain for the Venom franchise.
I don't like those movies. Like, I don't know.
Is well documented and very profound. Is the best way.
They set up. They definitely set up some stuff in that movie that that definitely makes you think that Venom is gonna try and find his way to the MCU somehow. The symbiote could find his way to the MCU, and
the symbiote's in the MCU. By the way, that's something we keep forgetting. Right. It is in the MCU. Like, he left his mark there, and when he got zipped back to his world after No Way Home, right? It was a movie, and the symbiote still left in some beach in Mexico, wherever the hell he was. So there's symbiote out here, it is in the 616.
But yeah, I don't know. This just in general, this feels like like you said, it's a bridge movie, man. Like, it's in the pantheon of the Spider-Man. Look, I get it. It's the 4th Spider-Man movie. A lot of times when you got these movie franchises, you get to the 4th one, that's when they start doing the wacky, crazy stuff. And that's what this feels like. It just feels like, how about we just have 80 Spider-Man duke it out on an island, and just have all the villains and just have some wacky Spider-Man movie. But this isn't. I don't know. This isn't Shrek 4 to me. This is where it's we got to do something ridiculous to get people to care at this point.
Now I'll say this:
we haven't gotten an actual Spider-Man movie in the MCU. We've gotten all these other amalgamations of him with Iron Man and him with the Skrulls and him with Doctor Strange, and all the other Spider-Man and all the other villains. Can we just get a generic Spider-Man movie that is good based off its writing, its acting, and none of this smoke and mirrors?
Yeah,
this is all smoke and mirrors.
That's kind of what I was getting at, where I'm I feel like Tom Holland hasn't gotten that yet. This Spider-Man hasn't. It's always some kind of MCU. He's with this one. He's with that one. He's with. It's can we just get him alone as Spider-Man? Sure, maybe there's a cameo. It's MCU. Sure, there's a cameo, but it's him as Spider-Man saving primarily New York. Maybe it's not some
keep him in New York.
Maybe it's not some world-busting, world-destroying issue. New York is in danger because this so-and-so is on the loose. Pick a person that's me. We were all discussing. Fill in the blank. Spider-Man villain from his rogues gallery is on the loose, and Spider-Man has to work to save him while also navigating his personal relationships with this, with MJ or this one or that one, and then. That's kind of the formula that I would have wanted to see from the next. Spider-Man
I could
movie.
show,
but that's the formula we have for every Spider-Man movie.
That's what I want to see. That's what I'm trying to see.
But none in the MCU. None of them in the MCU.
But here's my question, though, guys, because I think we talk about I think when I watch other Avengers movies or even Civil War, I think sometimes one of the things we come back from is man, it would be really great to know a little bit more about the in-between life of what happens in these movies. You start Age of Ultron and you see them tracking down the dude, who I can't remember his name now. I had it in my head. The Hydra guy, Strucker, right? And you see the Avengers have been a team for now, they're an active team. They've been doing stuff, fighting
even
Hydra,
just the last movie we watched,
working around.
He's going and fighting the Scorpion.
Right, you're man, this is actually kind of dope. I wish the Serpent Side, right? This is dope. I want to know what this world is like. What is it like to be in a world with superheroes where they're active, not just the threats that we see when we get to movie time. To me, I can't emphasize enough that the world's gonna be so different and so crazy. I think post Doomsday, you don't see the value in telling a story that's not just here's some flashbacks or here's some illusions and some throwaway lines in a movie as we advance the storyline in Secret Wars. Like, here's an actual movie. Here's 2 hours of, like, you want to know how bad things got with Doom? Like, here's Spider-Man trying to deal with this crap that Doom set up. Like, this world is, so he quote unquote saved the world, but now the world is ruined because now everyone in Manhattan, like, I don't know if they're gonna do Spider Island. Like, I actually don't want that. Like, that's a little too goofy for me. Like, I don't think that we should have a story where
here's what I think happened.
Has spider powers, but I would want to see a story where all the spider people that we've been following and dealing with, they're now back in the same universe. This could be our introduction to Miles Morales. This could be our introduction to Spider-Gwen. Like, there's a lot of potential for this that I think would be, there's a lot of potential for this that could be awesome. And that this could be their avenue to do that while also telling us a story of, again, what it is to be living in Battle World. And I think we talk about how tie-in comics is so important to Marvel events. Like, this to me is like your tie-in comic, but as a movie. And it's Spider-Man. Like, this is as big as it gets.
Here's what I think happened. Because for a long time we had heard, maybe Fisk is involved in this movie, maybe Daredevil, maybe Punisher. What I think happened is I think that they maybe did have plans to do it grounded, and we heard Sony wants to bring back Garfield Maguire, Feige wants to do something grounded. Well, I think when they started to tear up, Kang Dynasty, and when they decided to tear that up and go into Doomsday and then Secret Wars, they realized, like, what we're gonna do with all this Battle World stuff, like you said, it's not really gonna make sense, to have a Spider. Sony's like, look, we got a Spider-Man movie coming out in 2026 or 2027, so
figure out what you guys
gotta figure it out.
Yeah,
figure out what you're doing. That movie's not. Yeah, we're not moving that date. Yeah. So, or we'll make it if you guys don't want to make it. And so they had a plan, and they're like, well, look, I mean, we can't really do a grounded movie now. So I guess we'll just do what they want to do now. Like, they wanted to, Sony was like, great, not grounded movie. This is exactly what we wanted. And Marvel's like, well, it kind of makes sense for us now to not do a grounded movie. And we can make it.
But I think there's a reality.
Even if they're not in the whole thing.
But I think there's a reality, kind of, that it would not have made sense to do that grounded movie if it has to be put in that same date that Sony keeps saying it has to be done in. If it has to be done in the year between Doomsday and Secret Wars, as we saw with Captain Marvel, it just does not make sense to put a Marvel movie out during that time. That is a prequel or before the thing happens. It just, the story, the Avengers story supersedes everything that happens. I think it also even supersedes Spider-Man.
And I think that that's how we got here, is I think they came to that conclusion. I would say, I don't know if I'm that strong on that. Because, look, my pitch to sell them and sell Sony even more, because Sony's the one with the money that's like, look, screw creative. We're going to make all the money with a jam-packed, all these great characters in it. I would go to them and I'd show them Deadpool and Wolverine. I'd show them Cat Brave New World. Like, I'd show them some of these spectacle movies and say, look, you can make a lot of money with these movies. They're also going to cost you a lot of money to make them. And then I go and I show them, I know this isn't a movie, but I show them something like Penguin. And I'd be like, look, this probably costs, DC, it costs Warner probably nothing to make this show. And, look at how good and how well received it is. There's no capes in it. And I know it's Spider-Man. I'm not saying I want no capes in Spider-Man, but I'm saying you can make a grounded story that just has really, really good writing and really, really good acting. And, like, you sprinkle Spider-Man in it, and that thing can make $1 billion if it's really, really good. Like, look, and I'm not saying you got to go out there and try to win an Oscar like Joker, but, like, if you do, there's nothing wrong with that. But I just think that Sony now, their mindset is like, look, put all the cameos in it, make it Deadpool and Wolverine, and, like, story comes second. Make sure we get all these characters in it, make sure we get all these cameos, make sure we get all this money. And I think they're hurting the Spider-Man brand. This is how we get to the point where we got to with X-Men, where we were like, we got to sell it, because we just can't make another X-Men movie. We can't make another Fantastic Four movie, or we can't make another Spider-Man movie because we think they're so bad. It's like, if you make the movies good, you're always able to make these movies.
But Kendall, they just came off arguably the most well-received Spider-Man.
That's
movie.
why they're never going to think. That's
why I reject this, because, like, that would make sense if they were coming off a movie that was not well received. That I mean,
Right.
Spider-Man: No Way Home was extremely well received, and
I
like
just think they're
was
playing
it
with
it was
fire,
not.
man.
And like, yes, it was a spectacle, but it was also a good story. Like, it was not just like, oh, this is just popcorn, beat 'em up, no thought process. Like, they those were very thoughtful scenes they put together for that movie, the very
Yeah,
thoughtful storyline.
that was a
So
good
like,
movie.
yeah, so like, I don't think that because you're not doing your grounded story that it means you're sacrificing doing a good story, like or a story that can't be emotional, can't be engaging, can't be multifaceted. I think you absolutely can.
With what I'm hearing with this, I just think a Battle World Spider-Man movie in between Doomsday. I hope I'm wrong, man. I hope it's awesome, but it sounds way too popcorny, man. It sounds way too like spectacle
Yeah,
for me to believe. Like, I don't want to sound maybe because we just came off the Oscar season and like I just sound like too much of an Oscar snob, where I'm just like,
yeah. You sound like Martin
it just doesn't
Scorsese.
really captivate. Yeah,
You sound like Martin Scorsese.
the theme park.
You want cinema.
Yeah, no. So yeah, no. That's my biggest gripe. I think it makes sense for why Marvel's doing it and why Sony's doing it, especially. And you're 100% right. I think Miles Morales is one of the major aspects of why they're doing this, because, like you said, this is all gonna reset, and as it resets, they're probably gonna bring that same Miles Morales that we'll get in this movie.
Yeah, that's how
And
Miles
bring him
Morales
into the
became.
MCU.
That's how Miles Morales became canon in the 616 comic book universe. Was the
There you
Secret
go.
Wars movie? I mean, Secret Wars comic book. So to me that makes perfect sense. We do gotta move on. I want to ask Shane about this because this was a big story as well. So one actor is reportedly one of the people being considered to play an original X-Men character, Jesse Plemons, famous for his roles in Fargo, Friday Night Lights, Breaking Bad, and just for us, I'll throw in there a like Mike. He's being discussed by Marvel as a possible fit to play Hank McCoy's Beast character. So Sham, we've gotten now several actors being linked to several different roles, is giving us a lot of different things. A, who the X-Men are, and B, the actors looking at. I'll start with the actor fit first. How do you feel about Plemons potentially being Beast?
I think he can play Beast. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. He's one of those actors that just kind of pops up and stuff, and you're just like, oh yeah, that's that guy. Um, like I most recently saw him in the movie Civil War,
Yep.
and he was very good in that movie. Didn't play a
You
major
got like
role.
one scene. Seen everybody seen in
Yeah,
the trailers.
yeah, seen everybody saw in the trailers, but he played the hell out of that scene. Um, I also saw him. Yeah, I saw him in Black Mirror. He was very good. He's been very good in
Yeah,
Black Mirror.
he earned award. I think he won an Emmy for that role.
Yeah, he was great in Black Mirror. And he's also in the Scorsese Killers of the Flower Moon, which is very good. He plays a lead role in that, and he's great in that too. He's great in everything I see him. Everything I see him in, he is fantastic. He's very, very, very good. So I definitely think he can play um, Hank McCoy's Beast. Um, and I think he's I think just looking at just physically, I'm like, yeah, I could see like blue makeup and make him a little more beast like, you know, they can buff him up if they wanted, but they can also slap on a ton of CG if they. I mean, I don't know. They could CG. They could do the dots.
Mm-hmm.
However they'd want to do it. I could see that. I
Do,
could
do you
definitely.
prefer? Do you prefer what we kind of got? Obviously, we got the Marvels version, which we really don't know what that's going to look like in full real time. But like, do you prefer the Kelsey Grammer OG kind of version where he is like kind of buffer, or like, the Nicholas
Right.
Hoult where he's just kind of Nicholas Hoult with blue makeup? He's obviously buffed up.
Well,
He's
between
buffer
those
than he
two, I
normally
prefer
is.
the Kelsey Grammer.
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah, I want Beast
I
to be
agree.
big for sure. Um, if they can afford the dots, that might be good too. Because that one we got in the Marvels was like looked like it was straight out of a comic book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they can afford to do that, I say that and make it look good. Then I say that.
What do you
Let's do that.
what do you make of the inclusion of Beast in general?
I think it's great. I mean, I like Beast. He's one of those characters that's just very endearing, which I think is good. It plays good
Mm-hmm.
off of audiences. I think he is, he's an original X-Man, very recognizable X-Man. Um, and I also think his character is good to have to kind of, and I always like that Beast is kind of like the like voice of reason that also occasionally will counter Professor X.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes Professor X does stuff, and Beast can kind of be there to be like, I don't think this is a good idea, and I'm not, I'm very smart, right? Like you trust my opinion. I'm not like these other kids that you just trained, and pseudo adopted.
Yeah.
I have a lot of expertise, in the science world and the politics world, and like this, what you're doing does not make sense. So like, I like that Beast can kind of play that role. Um, in like just in general, in terms of like X-Men stories that I've seen. So I think I like Beast being included in whatever X-Men team they
Mm.
do. I think it's good. I think it's smart. I think it'll just benefit the story.
Kendall, you asked a question. I'll point to you. What do you think about Beast being on this team?
I think it's interesting. One, I think this movie is getting a little bit bloated, man. I'm gonna be honest, and I like it. I'm not against it. I just am a little surprised because of all the characters we heard. And look, obviously, Marvel hasn't come out and said any of this, right? We're just kind of piecing together different
Mm-hmm.
not leaks, but different reports from different scoopers and
Yeah, and this, by the way, was from
people out
this
there.
from Jeff Snyder, who did this one.
Yeah, and Jeff Snyder's had a lot of different reports. He said that Marvel is considering, this is one I loved, but he said Marvel is considering Austin Butler, or at least an Austin Butler type, to play Gambit, which is something I've been banging the table for years now. That he would be a perfect Gambit. And so
I'm excited about
and
that.
Also, what's great about that, what will be excited for you, EJ, is if they do bring, if they cast Austin Butler as Gambit, then Gambit's now like, it's kind of like we're talking about with the Glenn Powell Cyclops thing, where it's like Gambit's now one of the three most important characters in the movie. If you have Austin Butler, which now some people may not like that, but so I think that would be awesome. But regardless, like, I mean, if you run down the characters that we've heard so far, we've heard Cyclops, we've heard Jean Grey, we've heard Storm, we've heard Kitty Pryde,
Yep.
we've heard now Beast, we've heard Rogue, and we've heard Gambit. I mean, the common denominator to me is all those characters are in that X-Men 97, X-Men the Animated Series
Well, there you
formula,
go.
except Kitty Pryde.
Right.
And we don't have Jubilee.
And we don't hear Jubilee, so.
Take that information how you want it. But we don't have Jubilee. Next we have Kitty Pryde. Regardless, it seems like they're going with that angle, and that's pretty much the same team again. And Jubilee and Kitty Pryde kind of could play the same role. Maybe there's other characters involved. The other character we don't hear, obviously, is Wolverine.
Wolverine. There you go.
Which I think is obviously, that's the big elephant in the room, or the big cause in the room. But it's an interesting decision. Now, when it comes to Beast, I think Beast's inclusion makes a lot of sense. Like Shamari said, he plays his role on the team beyond just him just being there is obviously does give you from a writing standpoint, the intelligent character.
Yeah, you have a scientific
you need to have the
advantage
science
to having. Yeah, having him on the team adds things you can do that you wouldn't be able to do without him.
Like how do we create the X-Jet?
He can fix the X-Jet. Yeah, he can give you the right thing to need to fight this certain guy. Yeah,
because you're like, what is Beast's specialty? Is he a biologist? Is he like an aerospace guy?
Yeah,
Literally.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Beast can do it all. He's
got a computer. He's finding information on ancient.
He's a scientist in medicine. Like he knows medical work. Like he can do it anything. Yes, he is
archaeologist when it comes to apocalypse stories.
Yeah, I'd love to get like a re-up on the rankings of smartest people in the Marvel universe. But I think maybe besides Reed Richards and maybe Tony Stark, I don't know if there's anyone smarter.
And Doom, right. Yeah, those would be the only three.
Maybe Doom, yeah.
In the conversation with him.
I mean, I don't know, and I don't know where Doc Ock ranks as well. I know he's up there probably.
Doc Ock's gonna be high too. Yeah, I don't think he's ahead of Beast though. Again, Beast.
I would.
Like that. He knows things about space. Again, he can build you a rocket ship and also build you a vaccine in the same amount of time. Like,
how did the X-Men have all this equipment? And Beast cooked it up for us.
Beast, right? If it's not Forge, it's Beast.
Is that him or Forge? Yeah,
right.
Him or
yeah,
Forge.
Exactly. So Keno's right. Like from a creative standpoint, he's an
and then also from a creative standpoint, he's awesome because kind of like how we talked about with Xavier, where like his point of view is very much important to like how he looks. Like that's the same with Beast, right? Like Beast is, like you said, the most intelligent character by far in any of the X-Men stories, but he's viewed a certain way because he's this big blue monster character.
Yeah. And
like it's great to sell on. It's great to put on a movie poster. It's why he shows up why I always argue he shows up in the post-credit scene of the Marvel is why he's the one that made sense, is because it really is stark for anybody who's watching. It's like, oh yeah, the mutants are here, right? If you show Cyclops, it's like, all right, some guy with red shades or a red visor. Like, if you don't know what that is, you don't know you really don't know what's happening. You see Beast, and even though he's not the most, you got to know something weird is happening.
Right, a guy with blue fur and no clothes on with glasses.
Yeah, that must have been big.
Talking scientific, you're just like, what the hell is going on? Like,
exactly.
If you know Jean Grey, it doesn't really necessarily say much if you don't know what's going on.
Exactly. And so he gives you that versatility as well. So to me, he was one of the more important characters to make sure he's in this movie, even though he's not maybe one of the most important X-Men in that regard. And the Plemons casting, like you guys said, he's awesome. I mean, again, Civil War, that's all you got to see. It's a 5-10 minute scene, and it's probably the most memorable scene in the movie. And it's a hell of an endorsement for his acting chops, seeing him in that role. But like Shamari said, he definitely has a look that I could buy as Beast, where you're like, you definitely obviously need makeup and CG, and obviously, but like you don't have to completely transform the guy or make it look like somebody completely different to make it work. Like Kelsey Grammer, you almost don't even notice that it's Kelsey Grammer because he's got so much prosthetics and makeup.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an Oz thing. It's kind of the same with Nicholas Hoult, whereas with Plemons, I don't know if you'd have to do an as extreme of a job. So yeah, I mean, I like the casting. Again, the question I would have also is like, do we think, because I think he's what, like 36? He's not that old.
Yeah.
But he's older than a lot of the cast members that we've had, rumored. A lot of the people that we've been talked about have been mid to early 20s. At the late, Storm is maybe the other character we've seen that's been in that 30 to 40 age range with some of the actresses that we've seen in the mix there. Do we think that he's going to play a kind of an older character, or do we think that they're going to kind of age him down as well, and he'll be signed? Of course, is he going to be more of a peer, or is he going to be more of an elder statesman? Do you think with the X-Men group?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, from
my I feel like he could play an older character. I mean, he's married to Kirsten Dunst. Like, I don't view him as a kid necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I like the idea of adding Beast. I think Beast, from just a script writing standpoint, gives you so much versatility. We mentioned just terms of just creatively, like how are X-Men able to do certain things. He has the intellect to build or help them with anything. But then also just like he's like, to me, he could almost be like a Drax character, like the way he can talk about like just like answering questions about like science stuff in very serious situations and stuff, like provides so much humor. Beast is one of the funniest characters in the X-Men, and it's not intentional. He's not trying to be funny. He's just funny because he's, again, this like worldly man who's brilliant, but is also like flying around in blue fur, like, fighting villains, reciting Shakespeare. Like, it's just a funny visual, it's a funny thing to experience. So he's a great character.
And the Nicholas Hoult character did not embody that at all. And the
Nicholas Hoult character, Hoult was great, but I think Hoult was they made him more tortured. They kind of focused they focused everything on like this idea of acceptance with him and his fur and everything, which I got.
Which makes sense at that point
in his life. Right, they decided to do a Beast origin story, essentially, or like a blue fur Beast origin story, which actually leads me to a semi-important question. Like, are we 100% sure this is a blue fur Beast? I mean, could we not get a pre-serum Beast that before he turns blue. Like, not I don't think that's likely, but it is. I found it interesting because I also think Jesse Plemons, like, he's very known for having a very specific, like, he's a very distinct look. He doesn't like he's
Right.
like, like William Dafoe said about himself. He was like, yeah, I knew I was distinctive when somebody said you a weird looking MFer. Like, I'm sure Plemons probably gets that as well. So he could also play like a Hank McCoy who, like, it looks human prior to the serum, where he just has big hands and big feet.
Right.
That's something I wouldn't rule out. But
Absolutely.
but even if he didn't, though, he's probably also a guy who's very easy to put in blue prosthetics or CGI and make it feel like, yeah, he can still look like himself, but also look like Beast. So I think he fits the role, or the role in many regards. He is someone who I think is always, in my opinion, now he has great versatility. In my opinion, he's always been great as a villain. He is an awesome villain. He is one of the better actors when it comes to being a villain. He has this cold, just thing about him that just makes him so gripping. So it's fascinating to see him play such a likable character. I think his character in Fargo was, I think, probably closest to this, maybe. But I'm interested to see that dynamic. But I like that Beast is one of these guys, and I know the team may feel bloated, Kendall, but I am all for more X-Men. Like, when I watched the first X-Men movie, I realized, wow, there's not a lot of X-Men on this team. Like, it's kind of like striking, like, when I think about it. Like, it's like that first X-Men movie, the team, literally the actual team, because Wolverine wasn't even on the team. He just showed up. It was Storm, it was Jean Grey, it was Cyclops, and that's it. Yeah. That was the X-Men. Like, that's not even a real team. That's not X-Men. That's a trio. Like, I don't know. Like, that's not an but that was the actual X-Men team that was actively in duty. There was no Beast, there was no Angel, Iceman was a kid, he was a student. They didn't have a real team. So, and I know those other movies end up having more characters. And to be fair, the first X-Men movie is awesome. But, like, I think, again, what makes the X-Men fun is the ensemble cast that you deal with. And I think that Marvel shouldn't shy away from that. I think they should embrace that. Now, I will be curious. I think you make a good point, Kendall. Like who is active and who is not. Is Beast active X-Men, or is he retired X-Men and just someone helping out? Is Gambit part of the team, or is he part of the Thieves Guild? Like, these are things that we're gonna have to learn over the course of the next however many years before we start getting official castings, or maybe not even a year. Maybe it's just this year or next year. But I am not running away from the fact that, like, they want to cast a lot of people, and I feel like the caliber of actors they're getting are also, like, really good, which I think is important too. Like, they're not getting, like, not to say you can't get an unknown that's great, but there's no unknowns being talked about for any of these roles.
Right. Besides Kitty Pryde, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
But she's super young, obviously. But
right.
But in the case of, like, what I was gonna say to that point, though, is what I do also like about the actors that they've casted, because Jeff Snyder had added a report last week as well about how, obviously Marvel came out and said they were canceling, the Strange Academy show, and they were canceling Nova, potentially not canceling, but pushing, putting on the back burner, which essentially probably means canceled. Nova got put on the back burner. Strange Academy, some other show called Terror Inc., who they didn't even know about. And Jeff Snyder said, yeah, but they're making an X Academy show on Disney Plus, and that's something we've talked about for like a decade, right?
That's something that
pretty much that they bought.
Should have been made, man.
Yeah, it should have been made, and to me, what I love about the cast that they've brought in is that they haven't cast anybody that I'm like, yeah, this person's too big to show up on a Disney Plus series. Like, they don't got the budget or to pay. Like, again, I've been campaigning for Glenn Powell, right, to be Cyclops. You cast Glenn Powell Cyclops, he ain't showing up on a TV show. I just put it like that. Depending on who you cast, we'll see who's Professor X, we'll see who's Magneto, but like Giancarlo Esposito wanted to be Professor X. He'll show up on a TV show. He's on a million.
Right, he's been on TV shows.
Denzel
Washington is not showing up.
Daniel Washington is not. Some people want to see Daniel Craig play Magneto or play Professor X. He ain't showing up on a TV show. I promise you that. So those are things they've got to juggle as well. As, like, with the cap space, that we've got, should we use it in a way in which we can bring in actors, like you said, that are really talented and make fits and that can fit the role, but also are flexible enough to be like, yeah, we're gonna have a million different characters in this, so you're not gonna have a million lines, and like we may want to use your character in other projects and in TV shows or side characters in other projects. That to me is the smartest way to go about this. So we'll see how that ends up evolving, but I think there's been nothing I've been upset about when it comes to Marvel so far. Remember, initially I was really, really upset with the Jean Grey was like a 19-year-old actress. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like 19-year-old Jean Grey? But then the guy that we think is going to play Cyclops, Harry Dickinson's not nearly that young. He's like 26, 27. And so now I'm like, all right, this kind of makes sense. And
said the
I'm okay with a mid.
Revo's not young.
Yeah, Revo's not young. Like it seems like there's going to be different age ranges within the X-Men. And Kitty Pryde's going to be like 14, but like the main X-Men are going to be in their 20s, and like there's going to be some older X-Men that are in their 30s.
Do you guys think that this is? It brings me to that question. Like, I mean, I guess is this the first X-Men team you think in this universe when we get to that? I don't think it will be.
I think that there will have been X-Men for a while, at least like a decent amount of them. Like, sure, there's going to be some new characters that appear.
When you say in this universe, what do you mean?
In whatever universe happens post Secret Wars, will this be the first X-Men team? I would assume no.
I don't think this is an origin story on any level. Now, do I think that this is most of the original X-Men? I think that. Like I don't think that there's going to be something where it's like, we're gonna have to call Angel and all. Like maybe they may do that, but like I don't think there's gonna be a first class situation, right? Where we get the X-Men 2000 movie, and you're like, yeah, but in the 60s we had a whole other group of X-Men that were the actual first. I don't think they're going to do all that. I think for the most part, these will be most of the original X-Men. And then I think they'll introduce some new characters, and I think they'll have been X-Men for a while. So I don't think it's going to be an origin story on any level.
That's a good question. I have no idea, actually. I don't know. I mean, I would assume not, but I wouldn't mind if it was. I don't know. I'd be fine either way.
With as young as Jean and Cyclops are, like, it's gonna be hard to say that there was anybody like, especially Jean, right? I mean, now again, I'm assuming in story they're gonna be pretty much the same age, even if they don't look it, or even if they aren't in real life. But like, if you're telling me they're both 25, like, I mean, when did they become X-Men?
I mean,
how long have the X-Men been around?
Right. I mean, they were X-Men as high schoolers in the comics, I believe. So,
right. So they've been X-Men, you would think, for a while, but like how many people? Like how long have the X-Men been around? Like I guess that all depends on how old the Professor X that they cast is.
Yeah.
I would hope they don't cast somebody too old to play Professor X for multiple reasons, but that would make if he's 60, like sure, maybe there's other characters, but if he's only like in his 40s or 50s, that's what I would think.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting conversation that's going to continue.
What do you make it last real quick on Wolverine?
Yeah.
Is Wolverine not in it?
I don't think he's going to be on the team.
Man,
that's my instinct.
Bold take he did. Are you? I still don't know. I still am not with.
Well, I think Wolverine has to be
the X-23 theory. Wow,
I think Wolverine is. I go 90%. He's in the movie. He's got to be in the movie. I don't know if he's on the team.
In the movie on the team are different things, but I definitely don't think he's on the team.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say the opposite. I thought you were going to say he's not in the movie, but he is on the team, which may also be kind of interesting.
That could be interesting, but I don't think that's what happened. No, I think it's more that they're
like, Logan's not here yet.
Right, like the X-Men were around for like 10 years or 15 years before he shows up. Like he's not like he's doing other stuff. So like there's no reason why in this Marvel universe he can't be doing stuff for Department H and doing stuff with Alpha Flight and like doing that stuff before he joins.
I was thinking like a story where he's like on sabbatical. It's like Wolverine. Like they're talking about Logan.
Yeah,
they reference him.
He's in Japan doing something or whatever. Yeah, right. I mean they could do, but that just seems that. Well, I think that will annoy people.
Yeah,
it might not. It might not annoy me, but I think it would annoy people.
Yeah, I feel like he's too big, especially after this Wolverine and Deadpool joint. Like, people are gonna be like, why the hell isn't he in this movie?
Yeah,
I gotta watch these kids or whatever. Like, I don't. No disrespect to the other actors. I'm not saying they're not worth watching. I'm just saying, like, You're gonna be like,
from a business
this would've been
standpoint,
better
I
if
find it
Wolverine
hard to
was
believe that they're not going to use Wolverine to sell this movie. That's the part that I can't get by. From a
Right,
creative
right.
standpoint, it makes a lot of sense
Right.
for them to not be in it.
And that's where I'm like, someone is gonna look at the marketing and be like, put Wolverine on this poster. Why is he not? Why is he not?
If Marvel
involved?
was at its prime, like post Endgame, absolutely, I think there's a strong chance Wolverine's not in this movie. But where they're at now, and look,
Right,
maybe
I
Secret
agree with
Wars
that.
will change, the perception. But where they're at now, I don't think they can take the risk
I agree with that.
financially of putting out an X-Men movie and not putting Wolverine in it. Now, look, they also are
I'd be
maybe
on that
struggling
bandwagon.
with how to cast this character. They may be struggling with how to cast.
Right. I think that is an issue. I think that is an issue. That's part of this.
But yeah, I'd be on that. I'm gonna be honest. I'd be on that bandwagon. I'd be like, they should have put Wolverine in this movie. They needlessly made this a lesser movie because Wolverine's not in it. Wolverine's that
And
good
no
of a
one's
character.
saying he's got to be the main
He's
character.
that good of a character. I'm just saying.
I always
He's
caution
such
folks.
a character. I love seeing Wolverine, and I don't even care. I'll be honest. It doesn't even if you were to put X-23, I'd be like, okay, at least they put a Wolverine.
Right. I think
That's
that's
gonna get killed, too.
I think that's
killed too.
I think that's possible what they could be doing. Well, last thing I'll say is, and me and my good friend Martin Torres always joke about it because it's true. Because all X-Men fan knows it's true. The stuff that either devalues Wolverine or doesn't include Wolverine is usually the best X-Men stuff. It's that's how it's been for a long time. And now it wasn't the case, obviously.
Shout out X-Men Evolution.
It's not necessarily the Chris Claremont story I'm talking about or anything like that, but like the ones that have just made it all about Wolverine, they've been good stories too. But the ones that have actually really allowed the other X-Men characters to breathe and not have him be such a like imposing presence and being everything about the story, it's the best X-Men stuff. I think it's no accident that people thought X-Men 97 was maybe the best animated thing we got, and Wolverine is a footnote in that show.
Again,
it's
mean,
not an accident.
The only thing I would say is I also love Wolverine and X-Men. Well, Wolverine.
I love Wolverine X-Men too.
He's the centerpiece of the X-Men.
He's awesome in that. Yeah, he's awesome in that too. Like it is not an anti-Wolverine take. It's more of like an anti-Wolverine being the end all be all of the X-Men take. Probably.
Sure.
It's like I would take any Wolverine story. I just think Wolverine is beyond. I don't say he's outgrown the X-Men because I don't think that, but I think that you can do an X-Men movie and then have
I think will happen
show up in the second one or show up in a late in the movie or in a post-credit scene and that be fine. And you will have a great X-Men story.
There will be. I agree with EJ. There will be some combination of either he's on the X-Men, or he's been a part of the X-Men, but he's not actively really in the movie, or that he's not a part of the X-Men at all, but he plays a minor role and he's not actively really in the movie either. But I think that we're going to get a Wolverine side project, whether it be probably a movie because they want to make money off it. Mm. Like I think we're going to get a Wolverine. If he's not in the X-Men actively as a main character, then we're going to get a movie.
I so badly would love to see Wolverine. I so badly would love to see Wolverine in Alpha Flight. I really think that would be really cool. Like, one, you create more Marvel IPs from a business standpoint. I think that works. I don't know what the Canadian fan base is, but you give Canada a little shine. And having them clash with the X-Men and then having Wolverine like understand what happening with Department H, like having that story play out, is something we've not seen in live action. So like I think that I have a sneaky suspicion that's what they're doing. But it's not anything sourced. I'm not telling you something I know. I'm just reading this tea leaves and seeing. I'm like, I think that there's gonna be a longer game with Wolverine to get him to the X-Men. That would be really fun, but it's just gonna take us a little time.
Because they're gonna profit off of the fact that we've got a Wolverine game coming out. Wolverine is a character, obviously, on the Marvel.
It's not an X-Men game. It's not an X-Men game. It's a Wolverine game.
Yeah, we have a Wolverine game, right? And that's fair, But they're gonna find a way to profit off that character, right? Whether or not he's in an X-Men movie or he's in something by himself, they're not gonna leave him on the wayside or punt him till down the road. I think that they're definitely gonna actively. They've got a plan for Wolverine. That is certain, and. Shoot, it might be a period piece with Captain America or something like that for all we know. It might not be even in present day, and they might kind of make him like the Captain America of today, where he's not necessarily a character out of time, but they could start his origin with a period piece and then show him.
The smart thing to do with him is to make him the Winter Soldier of the new MCU. He should be involved in so many things that happen in the history of the MCU that's recreated in Secret Wars, and then him having been a factor in it, and him not remembering or even about it like that. That is how he should be used. Will they do that? I don't know, but I think they will. Again, I really think that is what's going to happen. So I have hope with that. We're running low on time, so I'll give you guys just quick thoughts on this. I know we're coming up on 2 hours, but the rumors of the Batman being rewritten to include James Gunn's DCU can officially be put to bed by the man himself. Speaking at DC Studios' presentation last month, James Gunn and Peter Safran said there are no plans to make Pattinson's Batman canon to the DC universe that is being created by Gunn. They say the focus right now is creating their own version of Batman in the Batman Brave and the Bold. So this was a back and forth. There seemed to be some confusion, maybe some even negotiating happening about whether or not the Matt Reeves Batman that was created, that universe would then be included into the larger DCU universe that James Gunn is creating. Matt Reeves' story right now is Elseworlds, meaning that it's not canon to the new Superman movie, Creature Commandos, Supergirl, all those things that are coming out under James Gunn's purview. So real quick, Kendall, do you think this is the right approach for DC to take?
Yeah. I for a while, like sure, like Penguin was awesome. You know, I would have absolutely zero problem with doing the Pattinson thing and doing the Pattinson thing and just saying that's in the DCU. But I'm opening up to the idea of having a second Batman, and how that could be really cool, depending on who they cast and depending on the approach. Now, what I'll also say is I think the DCU thing is still very much in flux, man. I'm just very honest. I don't know. We'll see with the Superman movie, but I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever get a Batman movie. If I'm being honest, but and I know that's an unfortunate thing for the James Gunn-ites or whatever you want to call them, the James Gunn fans that are out there. But I don't know for a fact that we're going to get a Batman movie from James Gunn. And I don't know if it would be smart for DC to attach Pattinson to a DCU that we don't know how long it's going to even, last or how good it's going to be. But a lot of it's going to come down to that Superman movie. If that Superman movie is awesome, which it still could be, obviously, then what's the problem with getting another Batman, right? Like, that would be my thing, right? There's really no downside to doing this for the Batman universe and for Warner Brothers. Because if it's bad, then why would I want anything involving Robert Pattinson connected to it? And if it's good, then we'll just make another Batman and people will be excited about that. Mm-hmm. But, I think there's because there's also a lot of good actors that could also play Batman. I mean, Alan Rickson, I haven't watched Reacher. Me and Shamari got to add that to the list. I don't know if Shamari's seen it yet. We got to add that to the list of shows we watch. But, Alan Rickson's been trying to campaign to play Batman for a while. He said he'd
do it for free.
Yeah, he'd do it for free. I know his agent probably went the ring in his neck, but, apparently he said he'll do it for free. Jensen Ackles is out there of Supernatural fame. He's somebody that makes sense to play Batman.
Has he already? Glenn Powell has put himself already out there. Voiced Batman, maybe in one or two things.
Yeah, he has voiced Batman. I believe in one of these animated movies or shows. But Powell has tried to get in the mix for Glenn Powell's tried to get in the mix for Bruce Wayne as well. So there's a lot of good actors you can cast as Batman that I could see and I can get excited about. And James Gunn has a specific story he wants to do. It doesn't seem like it jives with what Matt Reeves wants to do, and so it makes sense to just separate it.
Shmari, real quickly, you think this is the right approach?
No. Which is no surprise to anybody. We've talked about this many times before. I think Pattinson should be this new DCU Batman. I think having these two Batmans be on screen at the same time is not necessary, especially considering how great the Batman we got already is. Mm-hmm. I actually kind of think of it more as the opposite of, and I definitely see your point, Kendall, but I kind of think of it more the opposite of, instead of the DCU dragging him down, I see him kind of propping the DCU up and just him kind of elevating everything. Him and just the whole Reeveverse just elevating this DCU and kind of giving him more legitimacy and just making it getting people more excited. You know,
I
so
would agree.
and,
I guess
and
my only argument is we've seen Marvel where Marvel's had characters that have worked and they've had characters that don't. And not haven't had a million characters that don't work. Most of those good, but I feel like the characters that don't work, when they don't work, like I don't think there's any fixing them, if I'm being honest. Like, and I'm not saying Superman's gonna be bad. Superman might be good, but if Superman's bad, like I think even if you throw him in a movie with Robert Pattinson, I don't think people are gonna be excited about it. I think people are gonna be
well,
like,
I mean,
Superman.
Well, I mean, I would agree with that
Superman.
just because Superman is Superman.
Right.
Superman
it's about it being Superman.
yeah, Superman's
Right.
bad. This joint sinking no matter what.
Because even like with the DCEU, like it's similar, but like not necessarily with Superman, but like with somebody like Wonder Woman being great. That and like I think Justice League for the most part, I think it's for the most part even until you get to like again what the Flash, like Wonder Woman 2. Like there's some bad movies in there, but like everybody thought Wonder Woman Gal Gadot was great, but like for the people that didn't like the DCU, even the people that didn't like the DCU, I think most people liked Gal Gadot, but they didn't they didn't apply that to the rest of the characters. So I see what you're saying, and it could work.
Yeah, they didn't get that positive rub from being next to Gal.
Right.
Now, if the writing, if you told me Matt Reeves is making it, now that's a whole other thing.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Which could be in he could be in the creative process.
Which I would make the case that they should do that as well. But
I don't think he wants to though. Like I don't think that's not. I think what he got into it for. So it's hard to say, well, do something that you weren't hired for and make you do it if you want to keep doing Batman. Like I think that Justice League's gonna be.
It would take 10 years to get that Justice League.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's end up being James Gunn's baby. Oh, that's that too. Right. I mean, I think this is the right approach. Like I really was not, as I've said on the show, I really didn't love this idea of bringing in like Robert Pattinson's Batman into this because it just, while I think there was, in terms of where the Superman is, where there's Batman, it probably makes a little more sense. I just felt like there was excitement from me that they were going to be taking a different approach with Batman, adding a Robin, adding someone who's been around for a little while. I think Batman's been a little narrow in terms of how they've presented him. Like we talked about how all the different ways they've done Spider-Man. I feel like Batman, at least since the what's the name, the Burton era, like it seems like the Rose Gallery narrow, villains narrow, Bat Family narrow. Like we need to expand. It seems like I like the idea that Gunn I think is playing a bigger sandbox. Just bringing Damian Wayne into the picture, it brings a lot of different people into the picture. So it brings the League into the picture. It brings other Robins into the picture. Like it just changes everything. So I want to see that play out. So I don't love Damian Wayne as Robin, but I do like what that means for the Gotham universe he's creating. So like I'm okay with this. I like also storylines being done in the creator's vision in a way that makes sense. Like James Gunn, I don't believe he got hired thinking that he wanted to do Matt Reeves' Batman. Like I think that he saw the success of it and said, well, it probably makes sense to just include him in. Once that didn't happen, I think, okay, he has his own vision for what he wants to do with Batman. I want to see that and how it fits with everything he's created with everything else. I think to shoehorn someone else's creative vision and just make it his own, I don't think would have jived the way people think it jives. And I also don't want to see Matt Reeves' vision like corrupted in any way. I want to see what he wanted to do just play out. It's great. It's entertaining. It's very engaging, and it's a gripping story. Like I don't want to see like, oh, now let's throw in Green Lantern here. Where I don't want to have to even see him have to do any of that. Like I love that there's going to be a Batman where we can have all that fun stuff, and then have Matt Reeves' Batman that is focused purely on the Gotham City that he's creating that we all love. So I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. But I think that's a good place to leave it this week. So thank you guys so much for checking this edition of New Generation Hero Talk. Of course, you can catch all our shows wherever you get your podcast. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. You can also check this episode on YouTube, our YouTube channel, New Generation Media. Follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, New Generation Pod, Instagram, New Generation Podcast. Individually, you can follow us on social media as well. You can find Shamari, MC Sham, 22 on Instagram and Snapchat. Kendall is on Twitter at NewGenCan. You can find me on Twitter, EJ_Stewart, Instagram, and TikTok, Action EJ. That'll do it for now. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. For Shamari, for Kendall, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.